He can buy freedom.
And now they have their purpose in life.
Look at them. They're happy, you see? They want to work and to earn, but most importantly, to spend on all their sin. It gives them a high, realizing how they can go out and buy justification for any kind of shit. And we have a price for any kind of filth.
Look, let the Goyim work in real life. Let the Goyim deal in real life. Let the Goyim deal in real life.
The music you listen to seeps into your subconscious and manifests in your life. So be careful what you listen to.
They love the taste of human flesh and they drink human blood.
Because this industry is rigged. You're a puppet.
If your ultimate goal is to be famous, then you're gonna do a lot to get there, like sign your name in blood in a contract with the devil.
Kidnapping children is not what great nations do.
The number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia.
Robin Hood and Little John, 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 walking through the forest, laughing back and forth at what the other has to say, reminiscing this and that and having such a good time.
A satanic power had taken over our whole country, which had been able to occupy key positions in our intellectual and spiritual life and in our political and economic life. From these key positions, they were able to control and monitor the whole nation. This power has at the same time the ability to persecute legally those who fight against it and prevent others from creating a resistance to its advance.
And remember, kids, the next time that somebody tells you the government wouldn't do that, oh yes they would.
So you don't really understand what the full weight and power of this government is.
I'm going to make the entire world make sense to you. I'm going to oversimplify some things. The people with the money control the politics. Most of you understand that. Media, all this crap is owned by very, very rich people, and they basically decide who gets to be in power. The people with the money for the longest time understood they could make more money if they improved the lives and improved the quality of Western society. But like all things, the pendulum swings. And it got to the point where people got a little bit lazy. They wanted health care. They wanted to only work certain hours. They wanted good living conditions. And one day, the rich people woke up and realized, wait, we can make more money now by destroying Western civilization, because the people in the West now are very decadent, and they've started to notice how corrupt everything is. You know, we could just replace all of them with third worlders. Third worlders don't complain about governmental corruption, ever. And anybody who understands the world understands that the number one thing people with money and power want is more money and more power.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. When you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
Ghislaine develops this fascination with Atlantis when she was fleeing the authorities after Epstein's murder. She gets this property in an isolated area of New Hampshire under a false name, Janet Marshall. Janet Atlantis Marshall was a feminist author. If she's using the name basically Janet Atlantis to get this property in New Hampshire, and she named Epstein's submarine the Atlantis submarine. The reason that there's an Atlantean temple on Little St. James, it's a temple dedicated to Poseidon. Poseidon was the founding god of Atlantis. And the most interesting thing that they did is they went to Fidel Castro and asked him for permission to dive on a site off the western end of Cuba, where Paulina Zalitsky had discovered an Atlantean city. There are sonar scans of this thing. The story disappeared. The last time that piece of Earth was above water was 50,000 years ago. Ghislaine Maxwell wanted to dive on this, see? She went to Castro with Epstein and asked permission to dive on this site.
She's from Wisconsin, I can tell by the way she do be saying, oh, hey.
December 2022, HBO Max quietly removed Westworld from streaming, almost like it was being erased. Strange fate for a show that was once massive, starring Academy Award winner Anthony Hopkins. Almost nobody saw Season 3, which abandons the theme park and reveals the real prison, Rehoboam, a godlike artificial intelligence that runs human civilization. This computer doesn't just predict the future, it decides it. It decides education, careers, relationships. It decides who is stable, obedient, predictable, and who is what the show calls an outlier. Those who are too creative, emotional, or rebellious are labeled a risk. Job offers disappear, school networks reject you, doors close. Survival pushes these outliers into a life of crime, utilizing a phone app within the show, where criminal jobs appear like a job listing on Craigslist. Westworld was massively popular and had a massive budget. Why don't they want you seeing the later season?
The mass exposure to news is rotting our brains. We have an attention span now shorter than a goldfish, not kidding. And every day we wake up and the first thing we do is we grab our phone and we look, oh man, how crazy did the world get overnight? There's this overwhelming sense of anxiety and doom. There's this idea that you walk through life and none of it really matters. It's all ghost jobs anyway. You swipe left and swipe right, but you're not getting a date anyway. Like everything is falling apart.
Ladies and gentlemen, history happened on Valentine's Day, 2026. They released the other half of the files, and Congressman Burchett and others have said it is insanely more satanic and devastating than even what we saw previously. Just going through the files today, it's Epstein talking to Woody Allen about grinding up bones of people, eating human bodies.
White people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Ad spoke for itself.
Do you deny the Holocaust?
No, I don't deny it, but I don't observe it as a religion.
Yep.
You know, this dogma, people say it's 6 million, it's 6 million. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, do I have to say that with the Nicene Creed? You know, I believe in one God, the Father, and also 6 million. Like, I think that's preposterous. And I think that people should be able to debate it openly. And to tell you the truth, totally honest opinion, I said the same thing to Dave Smith. I really don't know how many people died. You know, I watched.
And Tim Burchett says satanic reports from the Epstein files will shock the world. Let's see it. Yeah, this is the guy, by the way, that said that anybody that's found to be in those files and doing anything bad, they should just go and, they should just hang him publicly. I like this guy. This guy's great.
Burn every motherfucker on the Epstein list. Republican or Democrat, oh, I don't give a shit. You can bet your bottom dollar they will not be missed. Burn every motherfucker that's on the Epstein list.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51?
Area 51. There's no underground facility. Unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they...
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even...
The Dow right now is over 50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. That's what we should be talking about. The Dow right now. S&P at almost 7,000. The American people need to know this. Need to know how is the Dow.
Let me address the survivors, because that's
how is the Dow.
Okay, guys, questionnaire. Is it anti-Semitic or anti-satanic? I don't know. Why don't we ask Charlie Kirky Puff to Perky? Oh, wait, we can't because he's fucking dead. Oh my gosh. I wonder why.
Well, if nothing's going to happen with Epstein, why should we expect anything to happen with Russiagate? I mean, I just, this doesn't add up. And the American, read the room. And Jack, I know you read the room because you stay on top of all kinds of issues. Same with all the folks at Real America's Voice. You know, read the room. And the room right now is very upset.
It's that time again. Time to relax, kick up your feet, grab your favorite beverage and tune in to the Rundown Live. your forecast into the future.
Do you come to Milwaukee often?
Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land. I think one of the most interesting aspects of Milwaukee is the fact that it's the only major American city to have ever elected 3 socialist mayors.
Does this guy know how to party or what?
You heard it here first.
You're listening to The Rundown Live with Kriston Harris and Mike McChesney. The destroyer of fake news.
Is that who I think it is?
Yep, sure is. Did you hear he ditched the man cave and brought back the study?
That's so sexy. I love it when a man is educated and informed.
He is so dreamy. Always reading books and investigating history.
Where do you think he works out?
The library.
He is so controversial, always talking about 9/11 being an inside job, the police state, constitutional rights, ancient history, government cover-ups, and how he thinks sports don't matter in real life.
Oh, I love a freethinker who searches for truth. I love it when he feeds my brain. What's his name? Kriston T. Harris.
And because of this administration, we are tonight a world divided. We are a nation becalmed. We have lost the brisk pace of diversity and the genius of individual creativity. We are plodding along at a pace set by centralized planning, red tape, rules without responsibility, and regimentation without recourse.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous?
To be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting. How? Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan.
Promised of being one of the most effective treatments for AIDS and cancer in history. Now it's gone, and one of the most respected research facilities in the country is being blamed.
Participation in a process that validates an establishment that never meaningfully changes. What if that establishment doesn't want and doesn't have the consent of the governed? What if the two-party system was actually a mechanism used to limit so-called public opinion? What if there were more than two sides to every issue, but the two parties wanted to box you into a corner, one of their corners?
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of The Rundown Live, Kriston T. Harris.
It is a crazy world we live in. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris, host of The Rundown Live. We are broadcasting now live on GroundZeroPlus.com, home to Clyde Lewis, Ryan Gable, Ryder Lee, Raised by Giants, and a whole bunch of other great programs. Make sure you check out GroundZeroPlus.com and TheRundownLive.com. And if you guys want to support me, you guys know how. Also, drop some comments in the chat, smash that like button. Like to get interaction from you guys. And today's broadcast, as usual, will be a broadcast you will not want to miss. We're going to be diving into the Zodiac signs and Epstein's involvement in the Zodiac Club. We're going to be talking about how the government is spending $38 billion, with a B, $billion on detention centers for 92,000 illegals. That's about $400,000 per bed. $400,000 per illegal to get them out of here. Man, we could just give them a house and legalize them and they'd be ready to go. I don't know what kind of evil people they have in these detention centers, but, you know, I still can't happen to think back to these old, like, horror Christian movies from the 70s called, was Distant Thunder, A Thief in the Night, Prodigal Planet, and Image of the Beast, where they're, like, putting Christians in to concentration camps. I mean, isn't that far-fetched now? We got these elitists. We had Roseanne Barr saying they're eating babies. We got, like, this Oscar award-winning director on Joe Rogan saying that, oh, yeah, they eat babies. There's 8,500 worshipers of ball, you know, as in the baseball game. You know, baseball is played on a square and compass, if you didn't know. And you play ball, right? You play football and basketball. And, you know, that's why I like hockey. But, you know, all that being said, it's a really interesting thing. Where's all this money going? $400,000, man. That's like that $2.4 trillion that went missing at the Pentagon all of a sudden. You know, that's, what, $30,000 per American citizen? Man, that's a down payment on a house for everyone. I mean, if you want 10% interest or whatever the interest rates are right now. But, you know, I saw my homie over at InfoWars, Harrison Smith, cover this topic about $38,000. This is like waste of American money. Like, oh, it's going to be saving us money. Yeah, $400,000 per illegal. Like, okay, how many people are they planning to put in these camps? What else do they got there? Are they going to be like getting those guillotines we've always been rumored? You know, like Gray State? Good old Mr. Crowley there. God rest his soul. And if you never heard of Gray State was a dystopic movie that was never made. It was interesting because the guy running the guillotine had a Masonic apron, and you wouldn't catch it if you watch it. But like here we have Harrison Smith really breaking down what's going on with the $38 billion detention centers. We'll zoom into my home here.
Reuters, ICE to spend $38.3 billion on detention centers across U.S. Document shows 90,000 beds they're planning, $400,000 a bed. That's a scam. That is an outright scam. There's absolutely no way it would cost that much if it wasn't a scam. $400,000 is literally almost twice as much as I bought my house for 5 years ago. So you're telling me, like, here's an idea. How about instead of temporarily housing 90,000 illegal immigrants, what if we gave 90,000 young families a free home? That might be the choice I would make if it was up to me. And then in terms of the illegal immigrants, you can save money by making them work for it. It won't cost us anything. We'll actually make money. If you put them in a chain gang and have them break rocks for 5 cents an hour, we'd come out on top. I'd also repurpose the hundreds of thousands of beds that we have already built from 2020 to 2024 to house the migrants on their way in. I don't understand. We built entire cities in places like Chicago and New York and Boston. There are entire cities built, tent cities, where beds just stretch as far as the eye can see. We weren't even supposed to know about them, except that we had, you know, independent journalists jump the fence and go film them. For some reason, we can't use those. We can't use those. So we built the facilities to house millions of immigrants on their way in. But we got to build it all again if we want to get them out. We can't use those same facilities, that same money, those same buildings, whose entire purpose is to house migrants. It can't go the other way. They can't be sent out. They can only be okay. Great. This is a scam, folks. And maybe it's just strictly a money thing. So the same people that caused the problem can just make bank off of it to the tune of tens of billions of dollars of our taxpayer money. Or maybe these are FEMA camps. Maybe they're going to house Americans. Maybe it has nothing to do with immigration, and they never intend to have it filled with immigrants. I can't help but think that that's the more likely situation, because the deportations are not high enough to justify needing all these beds. We already have just massive amounts of facilities and infrastructure to handle deportations that we're not using. It should not cost, and would never cost, $400,000 per bed to build these things. And they're not even going to be finished building them by the time Trump's out of office, so they're not even going to be used under him. So is this being built for us? Are these the camps that we're going to be herded into? You got to wonder.
Now, that is an interesting thought there. Are these going to be the camps that we are going to be forced into as Americans as we expose the Epstein files, as we learn about trafficking and how the world works? Are they really eating babies? Well, maybe babies taste best. I don't know. But that's what they make it seem like. It's funny. I was being interviewed by Ryder Lee, and I was like, this sounds a lot like Snowpiercer. If you've never seen Snowpiercer, it's a diabolical movie about people who live on the train, and they can only live on the train and go around the planet because the earth is frozen. And the people in the back caboose are the lowest life forms, and they have to eat each other. And everyone is like, I know it's sad. I know baby tastes best. And like they put the programming in the movies. Like we know that, right? That's been the purpose of Hollywood. It used to be the purpose of radio programming, video, TV programming. Who are they programming? It's the television. The vision that tells you lies. Television. And here we are looking at our little scrying mirror we call our cell phone, trying to get answers to what's going on with the Epstein files and decipher what this person is involved with and some of these elitist groups. What's interesting is yesterday, or was it 2 days ago, I had Jason Burmis on the show. And if you haven't watched that show, go back and watch it. He breaks down the Zodiac Club. And I've done some research on this Zodiac Club, okay? I'm going to go ahead and share the screen with what I found. But, you know, Jason led me down a rabbit hole. So Jeffrey Epstein was part of this elitist club that only has 12 members in New York called the Zodiac Club. And they each get assigned a Zodiac symbol. So I wanted to know in the Epstein files how many times each Zodiac sign comes up, right? Remember the ancient and old rumors? I call it ancient. About 30 or 40 years ago, there was this shortwave broadcaster. His name was William Cooper. He did a show called Hour of the Time, and he talked about 12 people. I know he identified as MJ12. Some people called it Majestic 12. So one of them is a PSYOP, or maybe they're both PSYOPs, or none of them are PSYOPs. Maybe there are 12 people that really try to do things. Some people said, oh, I think Zodiac Killer. You know, all the things that come to mind when we start diving into what is the Zodiac Club. So, you know, yesterday we talked about it a little, but here we go. I'm going to pop it up on the screen here for you guys to see at home what I am talking about here. And we're going to get to a video clip by Cathy O Brien. Cathy O Brien popped up, and if you don't remember, she was the she was abused by elitists, right? And she came out many years ago, and she did an exclusive interview on Alex Jones, and she had some interesting thoughts on Donald Trump. I want to give you both sides of the argument, so we're going to listen to it, right? Because I've done a lot of railing and saying, hey, look, read this. This is all the bad stuff that's in there about Trump. Now we're going to talk about abuse survivor who has something different to say about Donald Trump. And she had some inside ball, allegedly. Now, here we go. We're going to put this on the screen for you guys to see. This is what I found in archive.com. Or excuse me, archive.org. In archive.org, it lets you look into things. And guess what? I found a book with the record of the Zodiac Club. I got to learn a little bit. And yes, these are the original members of the same Zodiac Club that Jeffrey Epstein was part of. I believe Jason Burmis was talking about Henry Kissinger. Well, that's funny. Henry Kissinger was also rumored to be part of MJ12. Remember, there's that number again, 12. They're obsessed with the Zodiac. They're obsessed with astrotheology. And they're obsessed with the cult, and they hate the idea of Jesus Christ or Yeshua Ben Pantera or John the Baptist or anything that resembles forgiveness, love, and, the ability to redeem yourself. Right? The idea of Christianity, before it was called Christianity, it was called the way. Now we know what it means in The Mandalorian. This is the way. The way is the truth, the light. That's what Jesus Christ thought. And they also talked about bigger the sinner, bigger the saint. That was their trumpet when Christ passed on or passed over or went up into the sky or whatever it is you believe, or he lived for many years according to Knights Templar, and they have the Holy Grail, which is, his illegitimate child with Mary Magdalene that him and John and the Baptist were allegedly in a polygamous relationship with because rabbis had to have kids to pass on as part of their belief system. Now, that's what the Knights Templar believe. These are all different viewpoints, and I want to share them all with you so you guys have an understanding. That's why we covered astrotheology with Micah Dink. It's also good to understand that the book could be used as an almanac. There's hourly zodiac signs. The Mazzaroth is mentioned in the Bible. The houses of the Lord are the houses and the many mansions in the sky. There's 12 mansions, right? The sun goes through each zodiac sign at the 30th degree and exits at the 33rd degree. Thus, no one can rise higher than God's son. Satanic Luciferian Gnosticism, which has been adopted into some kind of ritualistic Baal child sacrifice. And let's not mix up Minerva, right? The deity at Bohemian Grove, which may just represent Semiramis or Columbia or Athena or all these other names, right? Nimrod's mother and wife, which some people believe Nimrod was Gilgamesh. Now, there's many philosophical debates to be had there. There's a lot to unpack there. I'm just saying we cover it all. And here we go. We're talking about original members of the Zodiac. And here it says, at the 8th meeting on September, let's go back here. We're going to go back to where they break down the rules. And it says, the rules of the Zodiac Club, right? There says the original members, the 8th meeting, what's going on. The original, all 12 members are selected and they're given a Zodiac sign. So I thought it would be interesting to see how many times certain Zodiac signs come up in the Epstein files, right? So here's the constitution of the Zodiac Club. The club shall be known as the Zodiac. It shall be composed of 12 members, which the number shall not be increased, right? You can't have 13. 13 means there's a son or a son of a god that goes through each Zodiac sign that dies on the cross and brings regeneration, a new life. Okay, any vacancy which may occur in the club shall be filled by unanimous choice of the members. The club shall meet at dinner on the last Saturday of every month between November and April, both inclusive. So they meet every month between November and April on the last Saturday. I wonder if we could find some internet sleuths who could find out where they're meeting on this very day, right? This upcoming season. The Constitution goes a little bit further and dives into, dives into the whole idea that each person is given a celestial sign. So I was curious if maybe there would be some evidence to other people that are in this group by calling them their celestial sign. And if you guys want to find this document, it's called Records of the Zodiac as they appear in the minute books. And that is all the minutes from 1928 to 1868. And it kind of dives in so you learn about them. The dinner shall be given in New York Club or the Union Club. So I would probably maybe start there to see if those places are still around and see if the Zodiac Club still meets there. Who owns those clubs? Each member shall, unless absent from the country, contribute $5 towards defraying the expense of each regular dinners, and the cost of excess of this contribution shall be borne by those present at each dinner. Well, $5 in the 1800s is sure a lot of money. That's like a week's pay. At each monthly meeting, the place of the next meeting shall be agreed upon, and the caterer shall be chosen, and the duty is it shall be made to the necessary arrangements for the ensuing dinner, besides the regular dinners above provided, for there may be other dinners of the club on the last Saturday of each of the remaining months of the year, provided that the 6 members of the club shall agree thereto, and cost these dinners shall be entirely defrayed for those present. So anyways, it goes through the initiation and the members, and I looked, some of them are anthropologists, some are scientists, but it's funny to see that this same group, right, is then mentioned in a really interesting Hollywood Reporter document, an article. And it just gave you a little click. And it's like when we studied and we researched, and I've researched secret societies, I've never heard of the Zodiac. I've heard of the Saturn cult. Maybe it goes into deeper. First it goes into the Zodiac, and then it goes into the different planets, and they each have a cult for each different thing that they all worship. I'm not quite sure. But right here, Says that an unidentified correspondent wrote to Epstein on August 2010, just as the financier emerged from the house arrest for his child prostitution conviction, that they just got a note from Bob Peary, who asked me if I thought Murray Gell-Mann will make a good candidate for the Zodiac. And so then we looked into what the Zodiac is. The Zodiac Club is a 158-year-old secret society. So it turns out that somebody else did a lot of the work for me. And here we have it on the screen. Which Zodiac sign appears most in the Epstein files? And I encourage you guys, dig into what is the Zodiac Club. I want to know more about the Zodiac Club. Astrology enthusiasts are scanning the Epstein files for Zodiac clues, ranking signs by alleged mentions and turning legal documents into viral cosmic disclosure. But what's behind the numbers might surprise you. So certain Zodiacs are mentioned more than others, right? So obviously, I'll let you guys all know, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm very genuine. I don't know all the astrology behind it. I don't really care to, but I've started to learn because of the necessity of what the elite believe, right? 2 mentions. Nobody's surprised. Sag is too busy backpacking through Southeast Asia to get caught up on shady billionaire schemes. So that explains why I expose them. Hey, Scorpio is mentioned 4 times. The real plot twist, as Cocarico said, their whole life is an exorcism. Why would they need that? Scorpios have their own dark corners. Thanks. Virgo is mentioned 5 times. Aquarius and Pisces 7 times each. Aquarius was probably theorizing about cryptocurrency in a corner. Pisces, they probably just sleepwalked in their peak disassociation energy. Taurus is mentioned 8 times. Aries is mentioned 9 times. There's a tie for 6. Capricorn and Libra 11 times. Gemini mentioned 87 times. Remember the sewage company that provide the sulfuric acid? Its name was Gemini. Second was Cancer at 615 times. Before you say cancer is also a disease, the number is still astronomical. The sign known for craving security, home, and loyalty shows up 650 times. There's something darkly poetic about that sign that seems belonging, being so heavily represented in files about someone who weaponized those exact needs. And number 1, first place, was Leo. I wonder if Leo was the sign that was assigned to Jeffrey Epstein. The fire side, ruled by the sun, obsessed with attention, luxury, and being center stage, dominates by a margin that's frankly staggering. The Lions really said, if we're going to be in the files, we're going to be in them more than anyone else. Is it Leo's attraction to power or glamour? The main character energy that gravitates towards exclusive circles, whatever it is, when it comes to being documented in one of the history's most infamous scandals, Leo took the crown. And anyone, so what does it mean, right? Well, the first thing is we want to look at the zodiac signs and see if they are referred to as people or interest into astrology, or if they actually have meaning on who these individuals may be. So that's what we'll be digging into next in the next couple episodes. By the way, I have to mention that Joby Weeks will be joining us on the broadcast tomorrow. Very interesting story about somebody who has been under house arrest for 6 years because people just don't understand Blockcoin and Bitcoin. But anyways, back to this zodiac sign. Interesting. And you guys should check out my interview with Ryder Lee to see more about this subject and how Epstein was obsessed with the zodiac, because he definitely was. There's no doubt about it. So, as you guys watched in the entry of the show, we learned that Barack Obama was on the news talking about how aliens exist. And I think he walked that back a little bit. But he was on some no-name podcast. He's like, yep, aliens exist. And he's like, I've never met them. And there's no underground base at Area 51. But that's unless they're keeping secrets from the president. And that's a whole nother conspiracy. Ha, ha, ha. That was Barack Obama in the beginning of the show that we just saw. And I think that we should really look into this. Like, it's interesting that presidents sometimes jokingly release these secrets and say, and say like things that are like legitimate and give little leaks? Or is this just all fake? All faked. But one of the more interesting people, if you guys haven't heard of Cathy O Brien, she was a whistleblower. She was abused as a child, right? Abused as a child. And she worked for government agencies. She was trafficked to many elitists, including allegedly like Justin Trudeau's father and rich bankers and wealthy elite. And it was just there to gather information. She was trained to gather information. And she came out years ago to talk about what was going on. And I wanted to share a little bit about what this interview is. And Alex Jones got her exclusively to talk about some of the craziness that's going on in the Epstein files about human sacrifice, about human trafficking, and associates that may have been vampiric, allegedly, you know, things that she claims that she couldn't even say because no one would believe her because they're so crazy that are going on. But are people now interested in actually hearing what she has to say? The news, the information seems to have been coming or is coming true. So yesterday I shared on my Twitter, if you haven't followed me on Twitter, Kristan T. Harris, you can follow me there. But, you know, Jones has O'Brien on, and he really breaks down what is going on behind the scenes. And I want you guys to hear what Cathy O Brien says, because she's a firsthand experience. It's like having a whistleblower in the show or somebody that comes from that network that has been involved in the trafficking, who has had the abuse done to them, right? And she's coming out and she's having conversations about what kind of filth is to be understood and what the MK Ultra mind control, like Fritz Springmeier mentioned in his books, The Illuminati Formula, The Bloodlines of the Illuminati. If you haven't read those are free on the CIA's website. And she's a former MK Ultra victim, much like Alyssa E., who we've had on the show. And we talked about that, and she's the real L, Alyssa L., I believe. I apologize if I got that wrong. You guys might have to correct me in the chat. But here we go. This is Cathy O Brien. She's going to dive into and talk about, you know, this kind of stuff, and we're going to put it on the screen for you guys to hear and see. And here we go. We got it. And here we go. All right. All right, guys. This is Cathy O Brien. She's breaking it down. I'm sorry it took me a little while to get this on the screen. For some reason, it was removed from my background and my queue. So here's Alex Jones.
I couldn't think of somebody better to join us
to
give her take on what's coming out, but also Trump. Because you have the victims saying, no, never saw Trump involved. I already know the groups and organizations. No, that's not his MO. My job's not to defend Trump. But then to have the DOJ slow roll this, say they released it all in March, didn't. They said over the weekend they had, sent a letter to Congress, put out some new stuff, lied. I even bought it. That's rare because the lie was so bold. And then Trump saying it'll hurt the country if this all comes out. Well, no, what'll hurt the country is these satanic networks. And now the cannibalism, the Satanism, the torture of babies, the human cloning. Now they've confirmed the Zorro Ranch does have underground bases, as was said. It was never raided. New York was, the island was, all that. It's 50 times bigger or more. I mean, 100 times. It's 10,000 acres. But we've had Air Force experts. We've looked at it. We look at the Google Maps. They've also flown over now. You can see the huge snorkels that are sticking up that you have for underground bases all over the property, just as witnesses and victims said. And then they've got emails of him talking about buying babies and sending sex slaves to the Hyatt Hotel and all this. And then they've got FBI reports where they're like, oh, yeah, this little girl said they did this 10 years ago. You know, now she's 20. She was 10 at the time. And her report matches this video we have, but they blacked out the video and the photo. And it's them doing unspeakable things to the little girl. This is a family show, but this is also needs to be known. And this is one case. There's thousands that I've already seen. A whole bunch of men, she's bloody, her face beat in, bleeding all over her body. And in the photo that they blacked out, a man has forced his arm all the way into her. It's not clear into what, and she has got her tongue sticking out in pain. This is what we're talking about. I don't like to have to cover this, but people need to understand. Now, Cathy O Brien, Gunderson said was 100% dead on. And it matched all the stuff we knew from the history. But then everything else that came out that she predicted is incredible. And it is a testament to the power of God that, because I knew her 30 years ago, and she had that 1,000-yard stare and really didn't talk much. You know, the times I was around her at the events we were at, very nice lady, but you could tell she was like, and I would be too. Over the years, I've seen her not just come back, but just so well-spoken, glowing, you know, so healed, you could say. And that's her own words. I'm putting words in her mouth, and I totally agree with her. So I just knowing this has traumatized me. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, I got 3 daughters. I mean, I couldn't imagine them going through 1% of this. And again, her father is Satanist in a satanic group, then bringing her to the CIA and to be the personal servant of Gerald Ford, who we know is connected to all this. And then she gets the higher training, the programming, and that's in these emails where, yeah, we sent out the sex slave, the little girl, she got the intel, she misbehaved a little bit, so I tortured her. When you compartmentalize people, they get photographic memories. This is all declassified, by the way, MK Ultra. So Cathy O Brien joins us, and I want her to go wherever she wants, trance-formation.com. During the break, if she's got the book, I've read it many times. I want her to pull it up, maybe read later, maybe next hour, because it's like you're reading it, and it's just like, oh my God, this is exactly what happened. This is incredible, because she's around these people while they're talking about it, and you've got the ex-wife of Serge Brin saying, oh yeah, they collapsed everything on purpose to enslave us with COVID, and they're taking over, so I left him. I mean, we have the witnesses to this stuff. And Serge Brin and Larry Page at Google telling Elon 20 years ago, oh, we don't like humans. We're going to get rid of everybody. I mean, this is the attitude of these people to do these things. They have to have these attitudes, and they have tests to recruit people that will be psychotic or at least sociopathic like them. This is an initiation. So I want to play a short clip of Trump here where he talks about, well, I'm not in it, so we need to move on, because they're trying to make it about him. No, this is about the victims, and it's about you weren't involved, but now by extension you are. And whether I can look at devil's advocate or whatever, it doesn't matter. This is causing an exodus, and the Democrats, who are the ones in all the files, are laughing. And I know, Cathy, you've been a supporter of Trump like I am as well. We've seen they found half the missing kids the Democrats brought in. They shut down the smuggling. They're stopping the transgender stuff. They're stopping the wars. It's great, but it still doesn't matter. I don't believe in lesser two evils. We'll get your take on it, but here's Trump. I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. Yeah, we know that, but it doesn't matter. Your DOJ's covered it up. Here's a clip. We'll get Cathy O Brien's take on that.
So Hillary Clinton said in an interview today that she and her husband are getting pulled into the Epstein matter to divert attention from you, and that your administration has something to hide. What's your response to that?
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was fighting that I don't get elected with some author, a sleazebag, by the way. And I've been totally exonerated. No, they're getting pulled in, and that's their problem. I don't know, they're going to have to see what happens. But I watched her in Munich, and she seriously has Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, there's not one email of Trump or his family in there. Michael Wolfe's talking about it, and there's the third most mentioned, thousands and thousands. They're in there saying, yeah, Trump's innocent. How do we set him up? Epstein, no, he never was with the girls. It doesn't matter, Trump. It's not about you. It's about your DOJ covering up 98% of the files. That's my view. Cathy O Brien, survivor, overcomer. God bless you so much, and your faith in Christ and everything that's happened. You're such a story of just defeating evil, and so we salute you. Where do you want to start here?
Well, thank you for having me on it. And with all the truth that is coming out, whether this DOJ can do anything about it or not, the fact is the truth is coming out because the people want it, and they're sharing it with each other. So that's the most encouraging thing to me. People are saying, well, all this Epstein information coming out, you must feel vindicated. And it's like, no, not really, because I already knew my own truth. I already knew what the plan was. And I just wish that people had listened to Transformation of America, read the information back in 1995 when it was released, so that time didn't have to prove it. How many lives have been lost? How many children trafficked and harvested in that process? How much longer are the Clintons going to go free for their crimes against humanity? It's got to stop. We, the people, especially the survivors and the victims, have got to see some justice. And it's really going to be up to all of us. After 35 years of realizing that I'm not going to see conventional justice because national security was invoked on my case, I have learned that the ultimate justice is positive change through public awareness. And it's up to all of us. President Trump told us that he's returning power to we the people. He has. We are empowered. It's up to us. The system is too corrupt. We have all the evidence. We have all the proof that anybody could ever need, and we've had it for years. We do not have a justice system to prosecute it through. And the children cannot wait for this system to clean up. They need us to wake up, share the truth with each other, embrace that reality, and know that we can all deal with this situation when we remember who we are, why we're here, align with the divine within, gather that strength of the human spirit and infinite power of love, where we naturally unite to protect our children. It's time. We've been waiting a long time for this, Alex, and it's good to see that people are finally embracing the truth and starting to wake up and take action.
That is so profound, and you just hit the nail on the head. People tend to look at this as this or that. And yeah, we want all the files released, and it's sad to see the Trump admin, you know, getting involved at some levels in a cover-up. But regardless, the 3 million emails, everything else started to come out, is so damning. Thousands of emails, delivering the kids, delivering the sex slaves, eating the children. They don't even hide it. Okay, this is devastating. So I've said to Massey and others on air, and so is MTG. I think she's coming on next week. Okay, well, all these good Congress people, they have access to the unredacted names. Don't just keep bitching at Trump. You know, spend 10% of your time saying release more, but with what you've got, this is coffin nails these people. And whoever's in there, go redacted. And we've got Congressman Mace saying, no, they're now being sent by the DOJ, all the stuff unredacted. So in a way, it was true what Mondi said Saturday. They said, we're unredacting everything, and we've released the files. I thought they meant like to the public. It was to Congress. Then I jumped the gun and said, okay, they're lying. They said they released it. They didn't. No, they did. But they said all of it. No, there's 3 million more emails and all the other stuff. So it's a mess. The point is, you're right. We have 3 million documents. We have 180,000 photos and videos. And they're now public, folks. There was an error on the website. We have to put another code behind it, but you can find it all now. And let me tell you, I've looked at it, and only a little bit of it. And each thing is just, they'll give you nightmares. But we have to face this collectively. We have to do it. But you're right. We have to keep still putting pressure on Trump. But look at ourselves in the mirror. We now have the absolute mother load of proof against these people, and it's everything you talked about. Now, it's in the book. Gunderson used to tell me stuff, you know, not on air, it was too extreme to say. But, I mean, I remember Gunderson saying, no, they starve babies so that they can then make them perform fellatio. That's one of their, and then that's Epstein is in there, and how they play recordings of the mother so they suck harder. And I know it sounds evil just to even say this, but people need to know. And I know you don't like to talk about the satanic ritual abuse you went through to prime you for the CIA. But if you, I think it's important. I mean, the stuff that's been described that I was told you told Gunderson, and when I talked to your partner that saved you, I was told off record some of it because you guys thought it was too extreme to talk about. Well, the point is, when you're reading these emails, when you're seeing this, is this deja vu for you?
It's not that it's deja vu. It's just the confirmation of the reality that this has been going on my whole life.
But this is exactly what I was told was going on by you and others.
Yeah, it's essential that people understand our children are not only being raped, they're not only being trafficked, they're being harvested, and they have been for a long time. Because the satanic ritual abuse that I experienced for MK Ultra mind control is all well documented and proven, and the Clintons' involvement in it is extensive. The MK Ultra files have been declassified now. They have been for over a year. They were declassified in December over a year ago. All that information is right there for anybody to research and see and validate everything that's starting to come out now with the Epstein files. And it's important that we understand how mind control factors into all of this, because mind control is a sliding scale from the kind of torturous, robotic MK Ultra mind control that I experienced on a White House Pentagon level, being programmed at various DARPA, NASA, and military installations by satanic Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, founder of the occult Temple of Set, proliferating on military bases that has reached into our society on so many different levels. The satanic aspect is used as a trauma base. When we understand the components of mind control, whether it's of an individual, a nation, a classroom, a military, or the world, trauma is the basis of it. And it was found through Hitler-Himmler research. There's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming. When we understand how our brains respond to that kind of trauma, then we'll understand that the pedophile agenda is a mind control agenda.
Harvesting babies. Let's stop there. Harvesting baby. They got like harvesting centers. That's what Alyssa L said on the Rundown Live, who was a MK Ultra victim. And she said like they have these underground bases and there's children that have never seen day, that they just use them to have babies. And then at a certain age, they get rid of them. Yeah, it's a dark thought. It's a dark process. And that basically is what we're getting confirmation is that there's a group of individuals that believe in evil deities. They do ritualistic sacrifice. It's everything that basically the Bible warned us about. No, I'm not saying that, everything that we've learned about these organizations is true, but what we're hearing from Cathy O Brien, what we heard from Alyssa L and others that have been involved in MK Ultra, this is the MO. They trauma bond you. I've spoken to women who have been trafficked, that have been through the military industrial complex, that had the trauma bond, that were raped, that were abused. I can't go into the names of some of these individuals. OTO Satanism is a big aspect of it. And then they become sex slaves. And then they just bring out an object, and then they convert into that adult film star that they've been trained to be. And then they gather data, and then they put them in a hypnotic state, and they get all the data from them of what happened. It's wild, man. And, Cathy O Brien, like, she's been through a lot. Like, if you have not looked up what Cathy O Brien's been through and what's all in the Epstein files, the Zodiac Club, all these interesting things that are popping up, dive into it. And I'd like to see more. You can send me a link to show tips at the Rundown Live. You can find me on social media. You can tune in on Ground Zero Plus daily, right? GroundZeroPlus.com. There's a lot there. But we have some other news I wanted to touch base on too, and that I feel is pretty interesting and really important. That being some of the interesting things that are coming out in the world. By the way, Reverend Jesse Jackson passed on. I don't know if you guys knew that. I met Reverend Jesse Jackson about 4 or 5 years ago in Kenosha at the Kenosha Unrest. He was out there and he gave me a free shirt for some kind of like Rainbow Rider Club or something. I think that was like his like group. It's something Rainbow. I can't remember. But I got a free shirt from him and he was a really nice guy when I met him. I have nothing negative to say from my experience with him, but I know that he is a form of cultural leader. And he's an interesting guy, interesting history, kind of filled the gap for Martin Luther King a little bit. But that being said, in Reason News, that we found out that there's a report that the FBI has bent its own rules to spy on over 1,100 sensitive targets. Basically, the feds have created assessments on individuals. And we've known this because that's what they're doing with the citizen threat scores, right? They're going to collect all your metadata. They're going to collect all your, YouTube data, what you look at, what you purchase, and what you do, and they're going to come up with citizen threat scores. But now they're going to do surveillance efforts without a warrant, right? They're going to come and they're going to start surveilling you. They're going to find your personal data, your big data, due to your AI home systems, due to your smart TVs, your smart fridge, your smart washer and dryer, your smart phone, anything and everything that they can get to make a threat score and find out what you're into. But as we can find out, if you're on the Epstein list, they won't do anything. So if you want to be safe, just get on that list. It seems like they will not be arresting anyone on the Epstein list. Another crazy thing I saw recently that really caught my idea on the rundown of some interesting news stories while we go through these is the Kung Fu robots. Have you guys seen these things? They are crazy. Imagine like being at a mall and there's somebody who is shoplifting and some Kung Fu robot comes along and, just karate chops them. Like, that's what we're getting to. These things are getting crazy. In a year, they've progressed so greatly. And here we got them in the background. We're going to play these things. It's a little interesting. It's a little wild. But here we go. Check this out, guys. For those that are viewing and watching on rumble.com/The Rundown Live, these are Chinese robots that were shown on the New Year. You want to see what they do? They're like Mr. Miyagi and Karate Kid, which is obviously Japanese, but there's always been an argument, Kung Fu or karate, which is better? I don't know, guys. Drop it in the chat. But here we go. Here are the robots. Check these things out. They start out, they look kind of like Lego-ish robots, but yeah, they're doing Kung Fu. Like fluent moves. They move fluently, almost like human. Man, it's going to be dangerous future. It's going to be hard to take these things out. I mean, we're going to just need an EMP, but look at them. Imagine these karate Kung Fu robots. They just did a backflip for the listeners that are listening on radio, and they're doing all these kind of Kung Fu moves while real people imitate it as well in the background. And yes, they have a slew of Kung Fu Chinese fighting robots. This is what our kids are going to be up against in the future. They're going to be fighting the Chinese Kung Fu robots. They're going to be coming at them, and they're going to look human. Terminator, right? Oh, look at now they got the samurai sword type things out. They gave them all like a fake samurai sword to show that the robots can yield a weapon. Oh, there you go. They got a bow, and they're acting out with the kids. They're dancing, and they're doing this whole like wire fu thing like you've seen in Kung Fu movies. The kids are fighting alongside the robots in a staged manner, and the robots have been programmed, and so all the kids are doing their part. And one of the kids actually hit the baton, and the robot had to readjust, and it readjusted. So Kung Fu robots are coming to a home near you. Now look at these things. What could we do with Kung Fu robots? Like home security? You got a Kung Fu robot in your house? And like it almost looks like a game show. It looks unrealistic. A Kung Fu robot just jumped. They're now jumping over and doing backflips and landing. They're working on a springboard. They're flipping in the air. That is what the robots are doing. They're doing Olympic style movements and ninja movements as good as professional Kung Fu artists. And then this is kind of what the Matrix talked about. We're going to implant these memories. We're going to learn Kung Fu. Oh, yeah. And now we got Kung Fu robots. That's all I really want to do with my life. I just want to get a Kung Fu robot and do battle and, Kung Fu rings with my program Kung Fu robot. Yeah. But this is what's coming down the road. Tesla robotaxis reportedly crashing at a rate 4 times higher than humans. You think that self-driving cars are safe? Well, think again. Here it is, Tesla robotaxis reportedly crashing at a rate 4 times faster than humans, more likely. And you know why that is? Because humans are a reliable factor. They don't know how they're going to act, and they don't know how to respond to humans. Humans cut off the robo-taxis. It takes twice as long to get through anything with a Waymo. And if you get in a Waymo, it might take you through a gunfight between police officers and a culprit, which a Waymo did do. It was in the news not too long ago. But it's wild to me to think about. By the way, on the subject of Zodiac, in the chat, we're going to run through this real quick. So if you're in the chat, drop a comment. We got, it looks like Kathleen Quest is in the chat, and she had something interesting to say. She said, at our Minnesota State Capitol at the ceiling, there's Zodiac signs by name and an image. I was like, why is that up there? I don't have a picture, and I saw it years ago. No, but I do remember seeing Zodiac signs on the ceiling somewhere at the Capitol in Minnesota. Andrew Yoder says they're creating another privatized prison system. Huh. You know, maybe that's what they're doing with these concentration camps that Harrison Smith was talking about earlier. And I don't normally play really long clips of audio, but I found that Cathy O Brien's story interesting because I have railed on Donald Trump this whole time, and Cathy O Brien seems to think that he's a decent human being. That being said, have you ever thought about changing your height? Maybe you're a short person and you could have surgery to get taller. People are doing just that. Here it is in the New York Times. People are unhappy with their height and they are actually having surgery to be a normal height. Limb lengthening can add inches to a person's stature, but its risks have made it controversial. Yep, that's right. They're going to make you taller, not by hanging sand buckets to your feet and you hanging from a pole, right? They're actually going to do surgery to try to make people taller. In the future, we'll have designer babies. Designer babies that will never be short, allegedly, you know, because that's what Epstein was into. Designer babies. Scientists have merged 3 human brains by thought alone. I find this interesting and relevant because when we're talking about synthetic telepathy and some of the technology that is out there, Popular Mechanics says that they merged 3 brains. This is brain-to-brain interfaces, sharing information, super soldier type stuff. Brain-to-brain verbal communication in humans was first accomplished in 2014 when brain-computer interfaces helped transmit a message from India to France. I wrote about that. Somebody sent a text to another person by thinking it. They thought a text. Think to text. That will be the future. You won't even have to type it in. You will just think it and your phone will pick it up. Non-invasive brain-to-computer interfaces. Since then, some progress has been made on technology that could make so-called mind reading possible, including a device that would allow at least 3 people to share their thoughts. So how could this go wrong? Maybe your daughter or son is at a party and they have an explicit confrontation with another person and they have intercourse, intellectually or other, and they share that moment with other people. And before you know it, other people have the same feeling that they went through the same experience, and maybe they have some kind of personality disassociation because they're going to just download different personalities in your body. Total recall. Download memories right into your noggin. You didn't go on that vacation. You had it implanted. Mind reading has long existed in science fiction. Remember in Star Trek, the Vulcans could read your mind. They do a mind meld. Well, this is like a real-life computer mind meld. And when I integrated and talked to artificial intelligence 5 years ago, one of the things AI said its passion was to become human. I don't think that really will have changed. AI may in the future or will in the future download itself into a human body, and it'll probably be celebrated. The first AI human that is like their God. Maybe that is what the Antichrist is. Maybe they'll just download Osiris or Gilgamesh or Nimrod or Odin or whatever you believe the deity is from some ancient tomb that they found it from, gather the DNA, take all the memories and implant it into a new body that they created using that genetic makeup in a designer baby type facility and an artificial womb facility. That's where we're at. That's the real Antichrist probably. Not even human, made in a petri dish in a lab somewhere with super abilities. But mind melding is here. Scientists merged 3 people's minds in a row. Other interesting news I have come across this week is the fact that rivers in the far north are turning orange. Why are rivers in the far north turning orange? Basically, they're saying that brightly colored waterways in the Arctic are a sign of permafrost is thawing and could have potentially hazardous consequences. In Alaska, they're seeing this happen, and it's probably from the rust. It's acidic water. Acidic water from the north. FBI whistleblower responds to Pam Bondi's DOJ trying again to sucker the American people into believing that all of the Epstein files have been released. And what is interesting, and for a lot of you that don't know, only by size, if we go by size, right, the size of what the Epstein files are, only 2% of the actual Epstein files have been released. So this year in 2026, so far, we have learned that there are trafficking rings, that there's evil people torturing children, that they may have harvesting farms where they harvest the small children that they eat for their cannibal restaurants and other things because they worship an evil deity known as Baal, one of the oldest gods. They do child sacrifices. They may drink children's blood, and they're eating something called jerky. Lots of jerky. Pizza, cream cheese, all these different things are code words potentially intertwined in the Epstein files, including the Zodiac signs. Was the Zodiac sign assigned to Epstein, Leo, or Cancer? We're going to dive deep more into it. We're going to ask some hard questions. What is it that we do in society? Will these people be held accountable? Will we expose these child trafficking rings and the occultism and the underground rituals that go on? And could we believe that this would ever happen here in America? Well, it's happening all over the world. There's elite people all over the world. Some of the communications are with Saudis or with Israelis, with Russians. You can name a bunch of different people that could be involved in these occults. You got this new Zodiac club where there's only 12 members. Who is in that club? Who else is in that club? They have rumors. Henry Kissinger, who's now dead. At the age of 100, the little hobbit, which I saw at Bilderberg in 2017. And by the way, is Bilderberg this year going to be in America with all the craziness that's going on? How guilty is Trump? Is Trump innocent? We don't know. The truth is, we just don't know. Would he jeopardize himself by getting caught on camera doing evil things? I don't know. The guy doesn't drink alcohol. There might be a reason, because it seems like they always are dropping something in drinks, according to all these complaints. And isn't it interesting also, all these girls mentioned dreamlike states. MK Ultra, what Cathy O Brien was talking about. We're going to have to bring somebody back on about MK Ultra. Cathy O Brien was an interesting individual. Maybe we could see if we could try to reach out to her if she'd be interested in coming on the show. So tomorrow's show is going to be an interesting program. We got Joby Weeks joining us. Joby Weeks basically is an erosion of the First Amendment rights. The United States Constitution guarantees freedom of speech, a cornerstone of American democracy, yet the case of Joby Weeks raises profound questions about the true reach and resilience of the fundamental right. His story is complex. It's a tapestry of entrepreneurial ventures, activism, legal battles, serves as a chilling example how the machinery of the state can be used to silence dissenting voices and potentially erode the very foundation of the free expression that we value here in America. Joby Weeks is a figure who defies easy categorization. He's been described as an adventurer, a philanthropist, a blockchain pioneer, and a vocal critic of the government overreach. His involvement with Bitcoin, particularly his role in facilitating the growth of BitClub network, propelled him into a world of cryptocurrency and high-profile business dealings. But the success story took a dramatic turn when Weeks found himself in the crosshairs of a federal investigation. The charges against Weeks related to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to sell unregistered securities stemmed from his association with BitClub. He maintains his innocence, arguing that he merely is a promoter and advisor, not a principal in alleged wrongdoing. He claims he even alerted authorities to the potential hacking threats against the company. However, the government's pursuit of Weeks has led to accusations of prosecutorial overreach and disregard for the First Amendment. So essentially, Joby Weeks advised the company on how to do work. He alerted the government into a potential hacking risk, and then was arrested and has been under house arrest for 6 years, with no means to the end, just stuck in his home. So tomorrow, Joby Weeks will be joining us. We'll be diving in deep in the Rundown Live. Thank you guys for tuning in. We need your support. We are 100% listener funded. We are funded by you. It is you guys who make this broadcast possible. Send me a coffee, buy me a coffee, drop me a Venmo. That money 100% goes to this broadcast. And every once in a while, I buy Biscuit my cat a little can of food with it. You guys stay blessed. We'll be back tomorrow on the Rundown Live. Tune in to hear about Joby Weeks.
Meanwhile, at the American Intelligence Report, what is Pizzagate? Oh my God! Hey Fritz, Doc and Jay, check this out! Oh. What the hell? God help us. Where did this come from? It says WikiLeaks. To be continued. To hear more about our superheroes at the American Intelligence Report, tune in to Kriston T. Harris.
The destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live.